Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Dandavat pranams to all. Thank you for joining in. We'll start with prayers. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gauro Dishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tarale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanyam Ishwaram Hari Om Tatsat. Hare Krishna. So once again, I welcome all of you for the Bhagavad Gita study session this morning. So we are in chapter number 2. We were discussing till verse number 43. We finished, right? That's in second chapter. So quickly, we summarized a little bit yesterday, but just to see the transition from chapter 1 to chapter 2 is when Arjuna is asking, giving various reasons why he will not perform the war, and then he is asking Krishna to take the chariot in between both the armies. And then seeing the all of his kith and kin, all of his gurus, all of his great grandfathers lined up for fight, Arjuna becomes compassionate, and Arjuna says, "I will not fight." And then we also saw how a devotee is compassionate, but such compassion should not deter one from performing one's duty. And then 2.7 is a very important verse wherein he says, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna, Sishyaste ham shadi mam tuam prapannam. And then Krishna starts speaking. Krishna starts speaking by calling Arjuna a fool. And then Krishna goes on from verse number 11. Krishna starts speaking and he talks about the difference between the body and the soul, how the body is always perishable, the soul is eternal, how happiness and distress come and go, and a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And then he goes on to talk about the characteristics of the soul. The soul cannot be cut into pieces. The soul cannot be withered by the wind. The soul cannot be burnt by fire, right? And then very interestingly, Krishna also talks about for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. But for a material object, whichever is born has to die, right? We spoke about that, provisions. They have an expiry date on it. Like that, our material body also has an expiry date. But just that we are not aware of when the expiry is going to come. But it will, right? It's just a question of time. And then from verses number 28, that is Sankhya, right? Sankhya means what? Sankhya means, we saw Sankhya Yoga is Jnana Yoga. That means understand, knowledge that is there in the head. And then the subsequent verses will talk about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means, it's also called Buddhi Yoga, right? Sankhya Yoga is Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga is Buddhi Yoga. Karma Yoga is practical application of the knowledge that we have received, right? It is the knowledge is in the head when we know that soul is not destructible, the soul is amazing, the soul is cannot be cut into pieces, etc., etc., right? But then what are we supposed to do, right? And from text 31 onwards, Krishna talks about one has to perform one's duty as a kshatriya, right? As a kshatriya, one has to that's why Krishna asks Arjuna and Yudhishthira Maharaj to fight the war, because as kshatriya they need a then they need land and they need to protect the people. So that is the duty of a Kshatriya. Like we said, Brahmana Swadhyaya, or study of the Vedic scriptures, and dissemination of the Shastric knowledge. That is the duty of a Brahmana. Like that, Chaturvarnyam Maya Shishtam Gunakarma Vibhagasha. According to one's own qualities and activities, one actually engages in, one actually performs activities. And such activities, which are called the duty of the particular individual, should not be given up. And then Krishna also tells Arjuna to get up and fight with determination, because if you lose the battle also, you will go back, you will enjoy the heavenly planets, because you're dying performing your swadharma or your duty. And if you win, of course, you will get the entire kingdom. So fight for the sake of fighting. That's what Krishna tells, saying, fight for the sake of fighting and not for the purpose of victory or defeat, because victory or defeat is, it's not in our hands. So we do what is possible for us according to our endeavor, and then we leave the results in the hands of the Lord. And then Krishna gives a very promising, hopeful statement in text number 40, wherein Krishna says, Neha Vikraman Ashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. That means if one engages in swadharma with the right kind of knowledge, or when engages in sanatana dharma, which is pure bhakti yoga, then there is no diminution in the diminution or loss in performing such activities. Why? Because we were talking about how if I'm a chartered accountant this year, I mean in this body, when I die, I don't continue with whatever I have studied, right? Again, I have to go back to ABCs. But in the spiritual path, if I have attained 51%, or if I have attained 90% in devotional service, but I have not managed to perfect my life, then I will continue from 92%, like that. And then Prabhupada also talks about who can exercise such kind of focused, who can be so focused in their result. Only a devotee can be focused. Why? Because we don't run around many devatas wanting this, that, etc. So we don't do so many things to please so many people. We just are focused on the instructions of Guru, and because we want to please the Guru, and in that way please Krishna, like that, right? So those who are Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekaha Kurunandana, one who is a devotee, his focus is one. Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekaha Kurunandana Bahushakai Anantascha. Many branched are the intelligence of those devotees who are not fixed on one particular thing. And that brings us to the subject matter of what does a devotee focus on, right? A devotee studies Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc., because he wants to understand more about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Krishna says the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature. Oh Arjuna, you transcend the three modes and perform your duty without anxiety for gain and safety, right? And then we also saw how one has to perform the duty, but one should not. Okay, that's what we will continue from now, right? So let's go on from this 2.44, right? Again, we will revise that part of it, where a person who is very attached to material things, for him to focus on one particular thing is very difficult. Yeah. So we will start with 2.44. Let me share my screen here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah, so we will start from text number 44. Devotees who want to read can raise your hands. Let's start with text number 44. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, Snehal Mataji, go ahead. In the minds of those.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Translation and purport given by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says Samayag adhiyante asmin atma tattva yathatmayam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for person interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy.
Yeah. So we discussed this already, right? Samadhi is never possible for someone who is interested in material enjoyment, right? Because we are interested in material enjoyment, what we will do? We will just run pillar to post whom I should worship so that I can get what I want in terms of sense gratification. So the samadhi means one is not disturbed by the overflowing desires of the mind. Like so many rivers, they all merge into the ocean. So many waves are there. But when you're on the top layer of the ocean, we see that the waves are there. It is so much disturbed. But as you go deep into the ocean, you also know that it is the ocean. When you go deep into the ocean, it is very, very calm. Similarly, those who have a resolute purpose in mind to serve Guru and Gauranga, in their hearts, they experience peace, they experience bliss because they are satisfied with whatever they have. And whatever they have, they use it in the service of the Lord. So that is the ideal situation, right? But most of us, what do? We get very frantic, we get very anxious if things don't go our way, right? To the extent we are surrendered, we're able to maintain peace in all circumstances. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead. Text number 45. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunya Bhava Arjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Okay, Snehal Mataji, you can go ahead.
Yes, Mataji. Translation and purport is given by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Vedas ideal mainly with the subject of three modes of material nature. O Arjun, become a transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for the fruitive results which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with a fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as the student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to the transcendental position of a Vedanta philosophy where in the beginning there is a Brahma Jigyasa or question on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities for sense gratification, namely the Karma Kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance for spiritual realization is offered in the form of Upanishads, which are the part of different Vedas. As the Bhagavad Gita is the part of fifth Veda, namely the Mahabharata, the Upanishads marks the beginning of the transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress or cold and warmth, and by tolerating such dualities become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in the full Krishna consciousness where one is fully dependent on the God, on the goodwill of Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. All right. So here, Prabhupada is making a very, very wonderful point in the purport, right? See, in this world, we cannot remain without working, right? We have to work in this particular world. Even Prabhupada mentions elsewhere, now even to maintain the body, we have to do some work, right? If we are just not doing any work, then we will not be able to even sustain our material body. So work we have to do. But what is the consciousness in which we do our work? That actually determines whether we are going to be successful or not, right? And then Prabhupada talks about akarma, vikarma, and karma, right? Karma means I perform pious activities and I need to take a body again to enjoy the results of the pious activities. If I perform sinful activities, then I need to take a body to suffer the reactions of my sinful activities. And if I'm performing a karma, that means if I'm already taking into the path of devotional service, then I perform a karma. That means I'm no longer bound by the results of the activities that I am performing, right? And this particular stage comes when one stops acting for sense gratification. One performs duty only for the sake of the duty itself, and one is not attached to the results. And this means what? What does it mean? Prabhupada gives in a very beautiful line, the last line of the purport, where Prabhupada says, when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Why goodwill of Krishna? Because Krishna is Bhuktaram, Bhuktaram Yajnatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, and who's he? He is Suhradam Sarvabhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all the living entities. So the more we surrender to the Lord does Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam. The Lord carries what a devotee lacks, and the Lord actually protects what the devotee has, like that. Okay. Text number 46. Shobha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Dandat Pranam Mataji, Hare Krishna Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yavanatha udapane sarvata samsudho datake thavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanyasya vijanatah. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Should I read the purpose, Mataji?
Yeah.
The rituals and sacrifices mentioned in the Karma Kanda edition of the Vedic literature are meant to encourage gradual development of self-realization. And the purpose of self-realization is clearly stated in the 5th canto of the Bhagavad Gita 15.15. The purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So, self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. The relationship of living at peace with Krishna is also mentioned in the 15th canto of Bhagavad Gita 15.7. The living entities are part and parcels of the Krishna. Therefore, revival of Krishna consciousness by the individual living entity is the highest perfectional state of Vedic knowledge. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, 33rd canto and 7th sloka as follows. Aho bata swapako atogariyan yat jivagre vartate namadupyam te pustapaste juhuvu sansnur arya brahmanuchur nama ghrannanti ete. O my Lord, a person who is chanting a holy name, although born of a low family like that of a Chandala dog eater, is situated on the highest platform of self-realization. Such a person must have performed all kinds of penances and sacrifices according to Vedic rituals and studies of Vedic literatures many times after taking his bath in all the holy places of pilgrimage. Such a person is considered to be the best of the Aryan family. So one must be intelligent enough to understand the purposes of that without being attached to the rituals only, and must only desire to and must not desire to be elevated to the heavenly kingdoms for a better quality of sense gratification. It is not possible for a common man in this age to follow all the rules and regulations of the Vedic rituals, nor is it possible to study all the Vedantas and Upanishads thoroughly. It requires much time, energy, knowledge, and resources to execute the purposes of the Vedas. This is hardly possible in this age. The purpose of Vedic culture is served, however, by chanting the holy name of God.
Hey, ball. Mataji, where are you? Okay, the best purpose of the Vedic culture is served, however, chanting holy name of the Lord, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the deliverer of all fallen souls. Okay, so by the time Mataji comes back, let's see. We will just discuss this part of it. Is she there? Shobha Mataji. Okay. I can't find out anyways. Okay. All right. So the couple of paragraphs that we've read a lot. So let's quickly go into it. So Prabhupada says the first purpose of study of the Vedas, right? Just like all purposes served by a small well, right? If we need water, right? How much water can we get from a small well? We may get, say, 10, 20 buckets of water, right? But from a river, right, which is also like a water which that is drinkable, you can get much more water, right? So the purpose of the Vedas can be served by one who knows the purpose behind them. Like for example, if we study Bhagavad Gita or the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, then it is as good as reading the entire scriptures, provided we already arrive at the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, we can study the Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, all of those Vedic scriptures, and then finally arrive at Vedescha Sarvair Ahameva Vedyo, right? Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, right? 15.15 that from all the Vedas, I am to be known, right? So we don't have to study all of the Vedic literatures to just come to the conclusion, because we are in Kali Yuga. Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya. Kalau Asmin, what is that? Prayan Alpayusha Sabya, Kalavasmin Yugejana. We don't have the time, we don't have so much of Ayu or lifespan to explore various things and then try to churn out the truth, etc. Right? That is why we all want something fast, right? In this Kali Yuga, we want everything fast food, fast answers for everything, right? So here, Krishna is actually giving us that. Krishna is saying, simply by study of the Bhagavad Gita under a bona fide spiritual master, we will revive our Krishna consciousness, and that is the highest perfectional stage of Vedic knowledge. We don't have to study all of the other Vedic scriptures, right? Even Shankaracharya says, right? Eko Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. If you have to study only one scripture, let us simply study the Bhagavad Gita, right? And then Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhupada is quoting here, Aho Batoshva Pachoto Gariya. Shwapacho means even a dog eater, a Chandala, right? Tepus tapaste juhu shashnorarya brahmanachur nama grananti ete. Grananti means to speak the glories of the Lord, to chant the names of the Lord. So even if a person is born as a dog eater or born in the lowest Shudra Kula, but if that person takes to chanting Hare Krishna, then what happens? Immediately he will be considered the best of the Aryans. Best of the Aryans means what? One who knows what is his duty, one who has the Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. Gyan, right? We're not saying that we already attained our Prayojana, but at least we know what is my Sambandha with the Lord, what is the process that I have to do to attain the Prayojana, and what is the Prayojana? Krishna Prema is the Prayojana, right? So at least one must know the purpose of the Vedas is to establish this connection with the Lord, to work for the attaining this particular relationship with the Lord, to reawakening that particular relationship. And how that can be done? That can be done as recommended by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. So, Shobha Mataji, are you still there? You want to read? Or anyone else? Okay, Sudha Mataji, go ahead. When Lord
Hare
Chaitanya...
Krishna,
yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
From where, Mataji?
When Lord Chaitanya was...
Okay, Mataji. When Lord Chaitanya was asked by a great Vedic scholar, Prakashananda Saraswati, why he, the Lord, was chanting the holy name of the Lord like a sentimentalist instead of studying Vedanta philosophy, the Lord replied that his spiritual master had found him to be a great fool and thus asked him to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. He did so and became ecstatic like a madman. In this age of Kali, most of the population is foolish and not adequately educated to understand Vedanta philosophy. The best purpose of Vedanta philosophy is served by inoffensively chanting the holy name of the Lord. Vedanta is the last word in Vedic wisdom, and the author and knower of the Vedanta philosophy is Lord Krishna, and the highest Vedantist is the great soul who takes pleasure in chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the ultimate purpose of all Vedic mysticism. Thank you, Mataji.
No, Mataji, you can continue. So here, what are we saying? This is what we discussed completely, right? From all the study of the Vedas, we need to understand who Krishna is, who am I, what is my relationship with Krishna, and what is the best process for me to reawaken my love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that process is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. All right, this is a very famous verse, 2.47. Yes, Mataji, go ahead. Karmanyevadikaraste.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala te sangosta karmani. Translation and purport by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. Purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties are activities enjoined in terms of one's acquired moods of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means actions without the sanction of and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of the scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results become the cause of bondage, therefore such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Much, yeah. So, akarma, when we say akarma, it does not mean inaction. Inaction means I'm being lazy. Yeah, I don't want to do my work, and that's what Arjuna was giving so many reasons. I don't want to fight because I will incur sinful reactions. I cannot enjoy my this, that, etc. Right? Basically, what are we trying to say? I will not get up. I want to sleep. I want to be lazy. I want to sit down. I don't want to get up and go and work. Right? So that is inaction, and that is different from akarma. Akarma means we perform our activities. We are not lethargic. We are active. We are performing our activities, but we are not attached to the results of the activities. Right? That means what? Whether positive or negative, like we were saying the other day. Right? When we are studying this Bhagavad Gita, right? It is following instructions of our Shiksha Gurus. And then what happens? Even if nobody turns up for a particular day, it does not really matter because anyway, I'm going to read the translation and purport and I'm going to try to understand because the result of the activity is not dependent on the number of participants, right? Fortunately, all of you all join in. Thank you so much for that. But I'm just giving this as an example, right? So the result is not determined by material success, right? Generally, if a person is giving a talk or a person is a director is releasing a movie, how is the success of that determined? It is determined by how much money the movie is making, or how many full house are that shows particular running for how many months, etc., whatever may be the criteria. That means what? The results will determine the success of the activity. But in spiritual life, it is just the opposite, right? Even if the activity is apparently a failure or it looks to be a failure, it is still a success. Why? Because it is being done as a matter of duty for the purpose of satisfying Guru and Krishna. So without attachment to the results, right? So fighting as a matter of duty is auspicious, right? Similarly, for us, when we perform our swadharma, like as a mother or a child or a daughter or a mother-in-law or a father-in-law or an employee of an organization, etc., we can be without anxiety if you are performing, not becoming attached to the results, right? Sometimes even in office we can see, right? If you are working under a particular group lead or if you are working under a particular team manager, right? We follow the instructions of the team manager. Even in material world it works, right? If we follow the instructions of the team lead and then the success does not come, right? The person who's doing the work is not affected, right? He will happily go back home. And Prabhupada the team manager will take responsibility because it was his decision. So he will be held accountable. And Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example in one lecture. Prabhupada talks about the cashier in a bank, right? The cashier is counting probably crores of rupees throughout the day. That is what is his job from morning to night. Say there is a burglary in the bank, right? Is the employee, because he is counting the money, he is kept it in the safe, right? As long as he does his duty properly with all due diligence, if there happens to be a burglary in the bank on that particular night, right? The next day the employee comes and there is no cash to count, right? Is the employee going to feel sad? No, because I'm not attached to that money. That money was part of my job. I did my job, but now the money is gone, right? For whatever reasons, right? So in this way, the employee is not affected by the result of the activities or whatever is happening in the bank, right? Say the bank goes bankrupt, right? Of course, the employee might lose his job. That's another thing. But I'm saying the result of that particular activity itself does not affect the individual, provided the individual has done his work without attachment to the results. Provide if that particular employee has actually contributed in the burglary, right? That means he's done sinful activity, and therefore he will face reaction for it. But as long as I do my duty without attachment to the results, whatever be the consequence of the particular activity, it is not going to affect me. It is going to only create auspiciousness for me. Why? Because I have performed my duty in the best possible way and I am not attached to the results of that particular activity. And that is in itself is a success for me. There is no other success that is required for me. Yeah. All right. So let's move forward. योगस्थ कुरु कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा धनंजय सिद्ध्य सिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते. Okay, Rohini Mataji, go ahead. Translation. Our Mataji is joining us after a long time. I hope your travel was okay. Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Yes, Mataji, I had been to Tirumala.
Jai.
Purpose.
Okay.
Translation. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purpose. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord, and because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight. Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concerns. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this practice in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So yajñartat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Right? Yajñartat karmano. Right? All of our activities we can perform as yajna. Especially it is possible only in this age of Kali. Right? Because in other yugas, you perform your activities and then you have to specifically perform that yajna, where you sit in front of the fire kund, and then you offer various articles like the ghee, etc., right? Those activities, and especially in Dwapara Yuga, it used to be deity worship. So you go to the temple, you worship the deities, etc., right? So in Kali Yuga, it has become so easy because other activities are not possible. Whatever activity we perform, we can perform it for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, right? Because Arjuna, what is he doing? He's fighting, and in fighting also he's doing a yajna, because he's not fighting for himself. He's fighting because Lord Krishna is asking him to fight, and that exactly is equally applicable when we receive such instructions from a spiritual master. When a spiritual master asks us to do certain work, then such work done in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master is equal to a karma. That means I have nothing to lose or gain by performing that particular activity. I'm doing it for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga, like that. Okay, text number 49. Actually, who was reading? Yeah, Rohini Mataji, continue. Durena hi avaram karma.
Durena yavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam anvicha kripana phalahetavaha. Translation: Ho Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport: one who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. All misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches, which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, a very beautiful analogy Prabhupada is giving here of misers, right? Miser, what does a person do? He employs so much of hard work and earns a lot of money, but then he does not know the proper utility of the money. He does not enjoy himself. He does not spend the money. He just puts it in the Godrej, and then finally what happens? He dies. So he's neither enjoying whatever he's earned with so much of labor, nor has he utilized it in a way that is going to help him in his next life, right? He's just wasted it. Similarly, all those people who work very hard day in and day out for the bodily maintenance, for way of acquiring better homes and cars and etc., right? They are all doing so much of hard labor, but they are all like misers. Why? Because they will never enjoy whatever they have got, and even if they enjoy, it is only going to be a very temporary enjoyment, because ultimately they are bound by janma, mrityu, jara and vyadhi, and later on in their next life they are not going to enjoy the benefit of whatever they've got this life, right? So it all dies with the body, and they are so much attached to working so hard, but we even don't know how long we are going to live, right? Sometimes people work very hard, and then the results come when not even do they enjoy, but after three four generations, some people might enjoy. At that time also, somebody can usurp the property and take away, so we cannot even guarantee that somebody in my line will also enjoy. So what is the use of such bahulayasam? It is said, right, in chapter 18, Krishna talks about it as bahulayasam. Bahulayasam means hard labor without having the purpose of life in place, like that. Okay, let's move ahead. Text number 50. Yes, Mataji. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yoga karma sukaushalam. Translation.
Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Purport: since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjun is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Right. So, what is the price chitta? Like we spoke about it in Nectar of Instruction also, right? The elephant comes, bathes itself, and then rolls in the mud. And then what happens? There is no point in actually engaging in such kind of bath, right? Similarly, when we perform devotional activities, but at the same time, after being enlightened about this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita also, we go and perform sinful activities. Then what happens? It is like an elephant taking a bath and then rolling in the sand. There is no use of such kind of atonement, right? Atonement means, we saw in Nectar of Instruction how one has to repent for one's actions and ensure that one does not commit that same mistake again, right? So that is the best form of atonement, right? Similarly, How do we arrive at that particular position where I know that what I've done is wrong? I should not be repeating it. My ignorance should be removed. How my ignorance will be removed? By studying Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of a bona fide guru. And later on, I understand that I need to surrender to Krishna. Then, whatever sinful activities I may have committed before my such understanding, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma, Shashwat Shantir Nikachati Kaunteya Pratijanihi Nami Bhaktaha Pranashati. Krishna is very merciful. Krishna says, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Even if a person has committed so many sinful activities, if that person understands this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita, basically he understands Vedescha Sarvai Rahameva Vedyo, right? He gets the discrimination, what to do, what not to do. And from that point, he actually does not do sinful activities, but engages himself in devotional service. Then Krishna says, immediately such a person will become a saintly person. There is no doubt about it like that. Right? So what is the purifying process? Simply engaging in the process of devotional service while being careful not to commit aparadha and sinful activities again after coming into the process. Okay, Sindhu Mataji, go ahead. Text number 51.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
51.
Yeah. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi.
Karmajam buddhi yukta hi. Phalam tvaktva manishinah. Janma bandha vinirmuktah. Padam gachanti anamayam. Translation. Best Divine English, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all the miseries by going back to Godhead.
Purport?
Purport. English, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The liberated living entities belong to that place where there are no material miseries. The Bhagavatam 10.14.58 says, Samashrita ye pada pallava plavam mahatpadam punyaya shomurare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam lakvipadam natesham. For one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Mukunda, or the giver of Mukti, the ocean of the material world, is like the water contained in a calf's footprint. Parampadam, or the place where there are no material miseries, or Vaikunta, is his goal, not the place where there is danger in every step of life. Owing to ignorance, one does not know that this material world is a miserable place where there are dangers at every step. Out of ignorance only, less intelligent persons try to adjust to the situation by fruitive activities, thinking that the resultant actions will make them happy. They do not know that no kind of material body anywhere within the universe can give life without miseries. The miseries of life, namely birth, death, old age, and diseases, are present everywhere within the material world. But one who understands his real constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Lord, and thus knows the position of the personality of Godhead, engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Consequently, he becomes qualified to enter into the Vaikuntha planets where there is neither material, miserable life or the influence of time and death. To know one's constitutional position means to know also the sublime position of the Lord. One who wrongly thinks that the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level is to be understood to be in darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. He becomes the Lord himself and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. But one who, understanding that his position is to serve, transfers himself to the service of the Lord, at once becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka. Service for the cause of the Lord is called Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, or in plain words, devotional service to the Lord.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. So, so we'll end Bhagavad Gita here, and then we'll start with NOI now. So quickly, in this particular purport, Prabhupada is talking about two different kinds of yoga. What are those? Sankhya Yoga or Buddhi, Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga. That means we have got the knowledge. Everything is in right. The head is filled with knowledge that I am the servant of the Lord. The Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My relationship is that of the servant to the Lord. Right? One's constitutional position, everything is known. However, it does not translate into Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. That means I don't do activities in accordance with the knowledge that I have received. In that case, what happens? It is what do you call it? In Bhagavatam is a very beautiful verse. Shrama evahi kevalam. That means we have all the knowledge, but but we are not acting according to it, right? Then what happens? We are going to continue in this Janma, Mrityu, and Jara and Vyadhi, right? We're going to continue in this birth, death, disease, and old age cycle, right? However, when this jnana actually becomes buddhi, that means knowledge becomes wisdom. That means we're actually engaging in the service of the Lord. Then such a person becomes eligible for Vaikuntha Loka, right? That is Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga is the same. What is that? Devotional service under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, working for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. In that way, Samsiddhir Hari Toshanam. So in this way, everything is perfect when it is carried out for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All right. So let's quickly move on to Nectar of Instruction. So we are on verse number, we have to start verse number 3 today. So in the first verse, we saw how, the 6 urges that need to be controlled, right? Yesterday we did a quick revision. So what are the 6 urges? Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jivva Vegam, Udara Upashta Vegam. Right, the urge of speech, it can be controlled by speaking only about Krishna and doing Harinam Sankirtan, doing Hare Krishna Japa. Manasa Vegam is the urge of the mind. How the mind can be controlled? By whenever the mind wanders, we bring the mind back. Yato Nischalatvam Mana. So what is that? Whenever the mind wanders from here, there, everywhere, that time you bring the mind back to focus on either chanting Hare Krishna or whatever other work we are doing. In that way, we control the urge of the mind. And then the urge of anger. How do we dovetail? Because we saw the examples of how Hanumanji, Arjuna, all of them, they control their urge of anger by dovetailing it in the service of the Lord, right? How did they do it? Hanuman burned the entire Lanka, not for himself, but as service to Lord Ram, like that. And then Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. And then we saw Jivva Vegam. Jivva means tongue. Tongue has got 2 activities. Speech, we already saw how we control it. And the other activity of the tongue is to taste, right? By simply following the 3 principles of sanctioned, sanctified, and regulated. In that way, we control the Jiva. What is that sanctioned? Sanctioned means Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. That is what is prescribed by Krishna. Sanctified means you offer it to the Lord and honor only Krishna Prasadam. Regulated means we eat specific hours of the day and we eat a specific quantity. We regulate our food in such a way that it will help us keep our body healthy for the purpose of devotional service. That is Jiva Vegam. And then Udara Upasta Vegam. Udara means the belly, right? The tongue, the belly, and the genitals are in the same line. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that simply by controlling the tongue, one can automatically control the belly and the genitals. Right? Overeating, by regulation of the tongue, we can control the urges of the belly. And the urges of the genitals, how do we control? The urges of the genitals we control simply by engaging our genitals only for the propagation of Krishna conscious children. That is simply to have a Krishna conscious child. Only then I will use my genitals, otherwise not whimsically and like that. So that was the first verse, and such a person who is able to control all of these 6 urges can make disciples all over the world, right? Our first disciple we saw is our mind, our senses, our body, right? Which actually follows our dictate of what it should eat, where it should go, what are the process to be engaged in, like that. And in the second verse we saw about the 6 activities that destroy our bhakti. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpa niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lolyamcha Shadbit Bhaktir Vinashyati. 6 principles that destroy devotional service. What are those? Atya Ahara, eating more than what is necessary, right? That is also covered in the Jiva Vegam, right? We don't eat what is more than necessary. We don't accumulate more than what is necessary. Prayashascha, meaning over endeavoring for material things. Right? We saw the example of the person who is earning 45,000, 50,000, right? He earned back pain and everything because he was so greedy to get more and more and more, right? So we have to balance our life in such a way that there is enough time to pursue our goals and ambitions and to practice spiritual life nicely, right? And then Prajalpa. Prajalpa is talking nonsense. Not talking about Krishna, Prabhupada says is Prajalpa. Niyama Agraha, right? In Bhagavad Gita also, the last verse we studied that. Niyama Agraha means we follow rules and regulations, but we are not understanding the purpose why we are doing it, right? Simply because I'm told I do. That is Niyama Agraha. That means I'm very Agraha, very interested in following rules, but I don't know the purpose of them. And then niyama agraha. Agraha means I don't follow rules and regulations. I want to act according to the directions of my mind. I don't want anybody to control me. I am a free person, right? And we discussed how such freedom is of no use. We discussed the example of an alcoholic, right? He has the freedom. He goes to the bar and he drinks 5-6 pegs, and then he loses his freedom. He doesn't know where he is. What to talk of exercising decisions? He doesn't know whether he's fallen down there only. He needs a person to even guide him to come to his own home, right? So what is that freedom? And then Jana Sangha means we saw how we are the average of the 5 people that we constantly interact with or associate with. So we should be very careful whose association we take. If you're constantly associating with a materialistic person, we will also have the same kind of materialistic objectives. And laulyam again means greedy for something material. And by doing all of this, what happens? Our bhakti or our bhakti lata, right? Bhakti creeper actually starts producing a lot of weeds because of wrong association, because of over endeavoring. A lot of weeds are produced. The unnecessary desires are called weeds. And when those weeds are not cut out, then what happens? It will become detrimental to the growth of the bhakti lata, right? Bhakti lata means bhakti creeper, like that. All right. So these things are not good for our bhakti. So what is good for our bhakti? That's what we will see now. Nectar of instruction, verse number 3. उत्साहा निश्चया धैर्या तत्तत् कर्म प्रवर्तनात् संगत्यागात् सुतो वृत्ते श्रद्धिर्भक्ति प्रसीद्यति. Okay, Nagavani Mataji, go ahead. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam to all.
Hare Krishna.
There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional services. 1, being enthusiastic, enduring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing. Mataji, वो हरि बोल.
Yes.
मताजी, वो कुछ आ गया बीच में, उसको हटाना.
अभी गया?
नहीं.
कुछ नहीं माताजी.
Hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success. माताजी ये कुछ आ रहा है बीच में. Complete, थोड़ा ऊपर स्क्रॉल कर सकते हो क्या? Complete success of pure devotional services. Purport. Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. Srila Rupa Goswami in this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.1.11 has defined devotional service as follows. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam anukulyena krishnanu setanam bhaktiruttama Uttama Bhakti or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fructive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation. As some what is this? Pseudo yogis, pardon Matsuji?
Pseudo yogis.
Pseudo yogis teach such idle meditation may be good for those
This is
who
full
are
stop, Mataji, after pseudo yogis teach. So cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly, like
idle.
pseudo yogis do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such idle meditation.
Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service. In devotional service. And for this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional activities.
Hare
Sri
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, ma'am.
Haribol.
All right. So, param drishtva nivartate. That is the crux of this entire paragraph, right? We are not only trying to do 90, 90, 90, right? We are not doing 90. That's what the pseudo yogis do, right? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasta param drishtva nivartate, right? We want experiencing higher taste. We can easily give up the taste for lower objects. Whereas the pseudo yogis, what do? They try to artificially repress their desires to probably enjoy something, right? In that way, what happens? Those kind of desires get repressed in their heart, and they all go into their heart, and then they are all unfulfilled desires, right? So when they get the opportunity to enjoy, then what happens? All of those bottled up, those things come out, and in this way, the yogi actually falls down. Why? Because by meditation, what the yogis prescribe, by sitting down, closing the eyes, that even Arjuna tells in what do you call, Dwapara Yuga only, Arjuna is saying, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavad dridam. Tasyaham nigraham manye vayurivashu dushkaram. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, it is very, very difficult to control the mind. So am I going to sit down and close my eyes and do meditation, right? And it is even easier to control the wind than to control the mind. And that was the state of Arjuna. That was the almost the end of Dwapara Yuga. That was in Dwapara Yuga. And now we are in Kali Yuga, where we are known that we cannot even sit in one place and do even a mantra meditation. Mantra meditation is what? We are engaging our tongue, we are engaging our ears, we are engaging our mind. All of these things we are engaging. Yet, most of the time, some of the times we go to sleep. Some of the times you are thinking of whatever we have to do during the entire schedule for the day, or what am I going to cook, what time I have to go to office, oh, what exam is my daughter having tomorrow. All that is clouding my head, and I'm not able to even chant. That is when I'm engaging my physical senses in the service of the Lord by chanting loudly. Right? Even such time the mind is not able to be controlled. Then how are we going to control the mind? By idle meditation. Right? Most of the times idle meditation means going to sleep. Right? Nidra yoga. That's what is the yoga that is happening. Right? So devotional service, how does it put an end to all the nonsensical mundane activities? Because it is pleasing to the Lord. By the pleasure of the Lord, because we are pleasing the Lord gives us the mercy. In that way we get connected, and because of this association with the devotees who have such taste, when we perform, then we will get taste for performing the devotional service, and in that state we are able to easily give up those activities which are at a lower platform, right? That's why Prahlad Maharaj recommends these 9 angas of devotional service, which are to be performed in the association of devotees, and especially in the association of those devotees who have taste in chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, Deval Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dhanush Pranam. So
Krishna.
Sri Prahlad Maharaj recommends Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. The 9 processes of devotional service are as follows: hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting his glories, remembering the Lord, serving the Lord's feet, worshipping the deity, offering obeisances unto the Lord, acting as the Lord's servant, making friends with the Lord, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. Shravanam or hearing is a first step in acquiring transcendental knowledge. One should not give oral reception to unauthorized persons, but should approach the proper person as recommended in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 34th shloka. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanena tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. It is further recommended in the Mundaka Upanishad that Vijnanartham Sa Gurum Eva Bhikachet. To understand that transcendental science, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, this method of submissively receiving transcendental confidential knowledge is not merely based on mental speculation. In this regard,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Should I
Hare
explain?
Krishna. No, so Hari Bol. So how do we get this higher taste? We are always talking about higher taste, higher taste, higher taste, right? And in the previous paragraph, Prabhupada explained how we can get a higher taste, right? When we acquire the knowledge through Shabda Praman, not by Anumana Praman, not by mental speculation, and not by Pratyaksha Praman. That means whatever I see is what I believe, right? We saw how we are subject to the 4 defects because of which we are not able to even see and understand and perceive things in the right way. We also saw how when we wear a particular color glasses, we see those things according to the same color and not actually according to how they are, right? So in this way, we are confused most of the times. So in this way, what is the best way by which I can acquire knowledge, by which I can arrive at the absolute truth? What is that? Transcendental confidential knowledge is not acquired by mental speculation. Tat vijnartam sa gurum eva bigachet. Gurum eva bigachet means we must, abhigachet means to approach. We have to approach a guru, or we must approach a bona fide spiritual master. And in that way, we will be able to attain the transcendental knowledge. And of course, we have the famous verse 4.34. Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. So that is the way of approaching a bona fide spiritual master, rendering service to such a spiritual master. And in that way, one can understand the transcendental subject matters. All right. So let's move forward. Who will read now? Anjana Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranav.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavad, yes. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami,
Brahmananda Brahmate कौन ब्रह्मांड ब्रह्मते कौन भाग्यवान जीव गुरु कृष्ण प्रसादे पाए भक्ति लता बीज. In the course of traveling and the universal creation of Brahmana, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna. CC Madhya 19.151. The material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature Ananda Maya pleasure seeking. They actually want to be free from the confinement of this world and of conditional happiness, but not knowing the process of liberation. They are bound to transmigrate from one species of life to another and from one planet to another. In this way, the living entities are wandering throughout the material universe. When by a word of fortune one comes in contact with a pure
devotee,
pure devotee and hears from him patiently and begins to follow the path of devotional service, such an opportunity is offered to a person who is sincere. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one take advantage of this opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example that I wanted to share. So Prabhupada gives an example of how the rainfall, right? It falls in all the places, including deserts, including plains, and all the places the rain falls. But in the plains, what happens? Nice vegetation, nice growth, nice plants, trees come up. Whereas in the desert area, although there is rainfall there, nothing grows there, right? So what is it that is discriminating? It's not the Lord who is discriminating. Lord is giving a rainfall to all the places, but it depends on the soil fertility, the fertility of the soil in that particular place, which determines whether some vegetation can grow there or not. Similarly, we all have the advantage of taking the association of devotees. We have International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We have the association of devotees. We have Srila Prabhupada's books. Everything, all of us have an equal proportion. Right? It's not that Gadadhar Pandit, when Srinivas Acharya wanted to study Bhagavatam under Gadadhar Pandit, right? Gadadhar Pandit had only one copy, that was written in leaves. And then because he was reading the Prahlad Maharaj pastime, Dhruv Maharaj pastime to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so many times, and because of tears of ecstasy falling down, the letters were all gone. So Srinivas Acharya had to go back to get a copy of the Bhagavatam, to learn Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. Today we have so many sets of Bhagavatams, and they are giving at a discounted rate. This in December marathon, everything is at a discounted rate. We want people to come and take the Bhagavatam and start reading the Bhagavatam, right? So everyone gets the opportunity, but who takes up that opportunity, who takes advantage of the opportunity and engages in devotional service, study of Srila Prabhupada's books, attending the Mangalarti in the temple, or attending the Sunday feast program, or having Krishna Prasadam only, all of these things, the opportunity is widely available. But one who utilizes the opportunity will go back home, back to Godhead. But one who does not utilize the opportunity, then it is a waste of his human form of life. That's what it is. All right. Okay, what is the time? 1:08. Okay, we'll take one more paragraph. Who can? Navkishori Mataji can read this. After that, I can see a question from Rohini Mataji. We'll take that up after this. Okay. So who? Navkishori Mataji, go ahead. One should accept this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Mataji, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, let me read. One should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his. Okay, Nagavani Mataji, you want to read? Is your hand up for it? Are you people able to unmute yourself? I don't know. Okay, nevertheless, one should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastically. Without go ahead.
You are reading, no? You read, Mataji.
Okay. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, a businessman, an artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action. But action for whom? The answer is that one should always act for Krishna. Krishna Artha Akila Cheshtha. Krishna Artha means the wealth, right? What is the wealth? The wealth is the pleasure of the Lord. Akila Cheshtha. Cheshtha means endeavor. Cheshtha means endeavor. Akila means all the activities. That means all the activities should be done for the pleasure of Krishna. Yeah. So in this way, let's conclude our discussion today. We'll take up if anyone has a question or some comments, we can take that now. But here very beautifully, enthusiasm does not mean just sitting and being enthusiastic. No, Prabhupada says enthusiasm means action, right? That means when there is an opportunity for devotional service, such an enthusiastic person jumps up and takes the opportunity for devotional service, and that action is only enthusiasm, right? Even devotional service, what do you call bhakti, right? Everybody else translates bhakti as devotion, right? Devotion is at a mental level, right? But Prabhupada says devotional service. That means if you're enthusiastic about something, we need to demonstrate our enthusiasm by participating or by rendering some service, rendering some physical service. In that way, we show our enthusiasm, we show our participation in that. All right. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Yes. So devotees can unmute themselves now. Rohini Mataji, what are you asking?
Mataji, that purport for shloka number 51, why is Prabhupada saying in the final concluding paragraph, he becomes a Lord himself?
Okay, once again, let me open that 51st verse. Okay. Okay, for one who's owing to ignorance.
Yeah, scroll further down. Yeah, there.
Okay.
He becomes the
So,
Lord himself.
yeah, the living entity's position and the Lord's position are on the same level. Is to be understood to be in darkness and therefore unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. So here in this line itself, it's very clearly mentioned that the Lord and the living entity are both Satchit and Ananda. However, the Lord is infinite, the living entity is infinitesimal. He becomes a Lord himself and thus paves the way for the repetition of birth and death. That means, if due to my Ajnanata, I think that I'm equal to the Lord, then what do? I pave myself with repetition of birth and death. So that's why we are in this material world, right? We think we are the Lord and we want to enjoy everything that is supposed to be enjoyed by the Lord. And so the Lord has given us this material world where we can go and reform ourselves, right? So that is why there is one example. Prabhupada says in one of his lectures, if we want to become God, then God will not reveal himself to us, right? Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah. The Lord will cover himself by the yoga maya curtain. But if you want to serve the Lord, then the Lord will reveal himself to us, how we can nicely engage in the service of the Lord, right? So a person who wants to become the Lord himself, that means one who becomes a competitor to the Lord will put him in a place where he tries to enjoy and become the Lord, right? That is this material world. Yeah, he paves his way for continuous birth and death in this material world. But when we realize that I am not the Lord, I am the servant of the Lord, then I pave my way back home, back to Godhead, where I serve the Lord. Right? So here Prabhupada is talking in a negative way, that if you think you are the Lord, then you will pave your way for Janma, Mrityu, Jara and Vyadhi. Okay?
Lot of material things, okay. Like that.
Correct.
Okay.
So because he says this after he says, one who is unable to engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord, he becomes a Lord himself. That means he will get frustrated trying to become a Lord himself. And then he will continue in the cycle of repetition of birth and death. Yeah. All right. So Nagavani Mataji and Navakishori Mataji, your hands were for reading. Anyone else wants to share anything? Okay. Thank you very much for joining in. Vanchakalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Meet you all tomorrow for the Brahma Murta session.